Hey, last time we got together, we talked about the middle times. I'd like to kind of jump off from there and continue to talk a little bit about what happens or what can happen in these middle times. I talk a lot about how we, as followers of God, we cannot go to church. Getting into this idea of going to church is exactly what can happen. We did talk about that a little bit last time. It reminded me as we walked through that study about the book of Malachi. It's the last book in the Old Testament. It's the book right before Matthew. Just to kind of orient you in there if you've never been there before. Malachi is at a time where the people had been in captivity. They'd come back from captivity. They'd been out of captivity a while. I mean, a good while. It was, I would say this is Israel's, one of Israel's middle times. And I know when we talk about Israel, you can kind of get into your head, oh, this is going to be one of those idolatrous things, and that's where you're going with this. It isn't. I'm going to use Malachi as a backdrop for the middle time, as an example of what can happen. We're going to be in Malachi chapter 1, and we're just going to, I'm not going to go verse by verse through here, but just use it as an example so that you can come back to Malachi yourself, do some more reading if you'd like, or if you just want to go back and reference what I'm talking about, you've got a place to put the pin in the board there. For us, as we find ourselves in the middle time, we're not up on the mountain, like we said. We're not way down in the valley. Valley of the shadow of death, as David said in Psalm 23. We're in the middle times. We can find ourselves not forgetting, just not reminding ourselves how much God loves us, how much God cares for us, because that never goes away. God's love for us isn't something that, okay, God doesn't ever tell us, hey, at the beginning here, I needed to tell you a lot that I loved you, and but now I don't tell you that stuff because now you know. That's kind of what's happening here to the people here as God addresses them in the book of Malachi. In chapter 1, verse 2, God says to these people, I have loved you as someone loves his dear family. That middle time has lagged on here for the Israelites. Listen to what they say. It's just, it's very, it's so hard to hear, but God's reminds them, I have loved you as someone loves his dear family. He's given that, that's how far away that they are with this continued conversation that you and I are supposed to have with God, is that God needs to remind them, I have loved you as someone loves his dear family. The Israelites' response to God is, how have you loved us? They're telling God, what are you talking about? What do you mean loved us? Like, we're not seeing any evidence of it. Those words aren't down here, but if someone says, I love you, and you say, well, how? You're telling them, I don't see any evidence of it. I doubt that. And so the people say, hey, we're in this tough position. We're not feeling it. These people are better off than us. Look at us. We're over here. These people over there, they've got it great. Look at us. We're supposed to be your people. We don't got it great. Remember, this is a people that were in captivity. They were slaves, captured 1,000 miles away from their homeland, and they were able to come back. God provided their release. And they still said, hey, how'd you love us? Just because we're out of slavery, just because, we're a generation, maybe generations, couple generations after those people that came back here in Malachi. And so they're like, what do you mean? What's the deal? We can get that same place. And I know I'm not pointing a finger. I tell you that all the time. I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm stating this for us, so we can guard against this. God tells them that they are actually despising him. First he says, I love you. They say, well, how? And he says, the truth is you guys are despising me. And they say, what? What are we doing? What's going on with us? How do we do this? You're going through the motions, God says here. He tells them, you know how I should be worshipped. You know that I love you with my whole heart, God says. That's the gist of what God's telling them here. I give you all of myself. You come and you go, there's some offering. We did it. We're supposed to give you an offering. There you go. Check. We get into that in the middle times. We go, check. I went to church. It was Sunday morning. I was there. I threw an offering in. Check, I was there. God says that kind of behavior is despising him. That's what he's like. We can liken that to right here. That's why I gave you this reference to the book of Malachi. You don't give to me what you should. And God doesn't outline, hey, here's exactly 10%, 11%. There isn't any of that talk here. These people had these rules for what a sacrifice. You had to bring your best. Because God's way back in the Old Testament, when God outlined these sacrifices that needed to be made to him, he said, I give you my best. I give you myself. I bring you the best. And so it's this covenant relationship in between God and us. And God says, I bring you my best. In this relationship then, to show each other that we have this trust and this relationship with us. I give my best, you give your best. And we give our best to each other. He's holding himself up to the deal. He doesn't say, you better, I'm demanding. God says, no. What I'm asking of you, I'm asking your best. I'm giving you my best. Every single day I come without regret, without apology, without anything. I've made this agreement. God's telling us, I have made this agreement with you. I bring my best. You bring your best. And these people are like, what have you done for me? As he walks through here, that is the pinpoint of this. How? How are you and I doing when we offer to God? Not just that money on the check on Sunday morning, but with ourselves. Because remember, Paul says, Romans 12:1, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present yourselves a holy living sacrifice. That means you and I crawl up on that altar, not because God grabs us by the hair, but because we crawl up there willingly. We get up on that altar and say, Lord, I offer myself. Galatians 2:20, we've been through this before. For I have been crucified with Christ willingly. So what is our sacrifice? What is that sacrifice that I am bringing to the Lord? Is it our best? Because God says, my covenant relationship with you, children, is I bring you my best 100% of the time. From the start to forever, I will bring you my best. That's the question for you and I today. Are we giving our best to the Lord? And we'll come back and I'll be using Malachi to kind of go through that to keep us rolling. But that's where we're going to be at, looking at ourselves in this middle time. I will see you back again.